Hello, I'm Matilda Butler with another in our series of Writing in 5 videos. Today's quick tip comes from Elizabeth Berg, who reminds us to consider our story, its point, and the emotions it evokes. Elizabeth Berg is the author of 22 books, including the New York Times bestseller Talk Before Sleep. Her most recent novel, released in April of 2010, is called The Last Time I Saw You, and has been described as a beautifully written and emotionally resonant story about women and men reconnecting with one another and themselves at their 40th high school reunion. In a minute, you'll see the relevance of this review. One of Berg's many books is for writers. Escaping into the open, the art of writing true is the focus of this Writing in 5 video. In her chapter, Getting Started, she writes a paragraph entitled, Have Something to Say. In it, Berg offers the advice, this needs to be something that would interest someone outside yourself, something that has some inherent interest or resonance. Mike Curtis, fiction editor at Atlantic Monthly, once described worthwhile content as being something you could tell someone in a car. I think of it as being a story that might begin with, "Hey, you know what?" or "Listen to this." A story that more or less has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a point. People also like a story that makes them feel something. Berg has wrapped 3 important ideas into this single paragraph. First, she's reminding us about the need to make sure that we have a story and that we're not merely reporting that this happened and then this happened and then this happened. We need a vignette or chapter or book with a start and a turning point from which we can reach the ending. The turning point might be a dramatic scene or an internal recognition of change. Whatever it is, we need to keep in mind the narrative arc. Second, Berg says the story should have a point. You might think of the point as the takeaway or the message. You'll often hear a theme and message mantra from Kendra and me. The theme, of course, is the universal of your story, about coming of age, or marital abuse, or mother-daughter relationships, or the struggle to succeed, or perhaps forgiveness or redemption. Berg, however, is reminding us about the second part of this theme-message pair. There needs to be a point or message to our story. The message might be abuse can happen in homes of the wealthy as well as the poor, or coming of age can happen later in life, or tragedy can strike in any household, or there are 3 life lessons worth sharing, and many other possibilities. Before I get to the third idea suggested by Berg in this paragraph, I'd like to share the thoughts of 2 of my students. I asked Lynn and Gail to read the same paragraph I've shared with you and tell me if any of Berg's comments would help them in their writing. You'll see that Have a Point spoke to both Lynn and Gail.
I think right now I'm writing a story about a cousin who I just found out, has died recently. And I thought I would talk about him because he knew a lot of people, and I thought it might be of interest to other people that he was involved with many famous people. But in reading this paragraph or listening to this paragraph, it dawned on me that I really didn't have a point, or I didn't think I was working on a point. It was just telling the story about my cousin. And then I realized that one of the big points that made me so sad about hearing about his death was the fact that we lost contact, that we were in touch when we were children, but somehow as our parents died, the siblings or the people that we played with as children lost touch. And I think that would be probably my point to this whole story, not just the fact that he might have been famous or in touch with famous people.
I used to work for a company as a receptionist, and every time they would ask me to write a letter, and it was proof, they would say, "You missed the point." So in the stories that I write, now I'm trying very hard to focus on that there is a point to my story. And working with Matilda and Kendrick, it's just, I've learned a lot.
Let's move on to the third important idea in Berg's paragraph entitled, "Have Something to Say." This third point is consider the emotional element in your story. Berg wrote, "People also like a story that makes them feel something." I'm guessing that this comes from her background because on her website, Berg wrote, "Before I became a writer, I was a registered nurse for 10 years, and that was my school for writing. Taking care of patients taught me a lot about human nature, about hope and fear and love and loss and regret and triumph, and especially about relationships, all things that I tend to focus on in my work." Berg's third idea, then, is that in telling a story with a beginning, middle, and ending, and with a point, we should also consider the emotional element contained in the narrative. We might ask ourselves if we're expressing emotions that resonate with the reader. Berg mentioned some of these: the hope, fear, love, loss, regret, and triumph. Consider your own vocabulary of emotions that belongs in your story, whether fiction or memoir. People, your readers, are driven by their emotional states, and they expect the people in your stories to express their emotions and want them expressed in ways that touch them. Consider how emotions such as affection, alienation, guilt, loneliness, pessimism, rejection, and worry would change the behaviors of the people you are writing about, including yourself. As you listen to this and all our Writing in 5 quick tips, Kendra Bonnet and I hope to inspire you to examine your own writing practices and philosophy. We invite you to visit Writing Alchemy online for more audios and videos. That's www.writingalchemy.com. In our book, Writing Alchemy, Kendra and I present a revolutionary new method that puts the writer in control of the creative process. We believe that just using the various elements of good writing is not enough. You want to use them deliberately. Writing Alchemy will help you integrate all the elements into your writing effectively, turning your words into gold, hence Writing Alchemy. Thank you for watching, and now it's time for you to put your reading, dreaming, and wishing aside and get to writing.